Okay. So we would like to bubble chart, graph, and then identify that amplitude, midline, and period for g of x is twice sine of x plus 4 minus 3. And so far we have the idea that you start with an x, and the first thing you should do to it is add 4, right? Which gets you to what? X plus 4. Then you're taking sine of that stuff. Okay, then what?
Multiply by 2.
You're going to multiply by 2. And then subtract 3. Excellent. Okay, so where's your rule at? Okay, so your rule's here. This, by the way, is the bubble chart part of this, right? Cool. Done with bubble chart. You don't really have to fill these in if you don't want to. So now I've identified my rule. Why am I identifying my rule?
Is this the thing we have to graph?
Good, because that's the thing that's giving me the graph that I'm trying to figure out what got shifted or compressed or whatever around here. So what's the plus 4 represent?
You're going back 4, starting from 4?
Yeah, that's a left by 4, right? Because it happens before the rule, so it's a horizontal type thing. And it's an addition, which is a shift, right? Okay, how about the multiply by 2? What's that? Good, that's after the rule, so that's a stretch by a factor of 2. Wait, which kind of stretch is it?
Vertical.
Good, it's a vertical stretch by a factor of 2. Okay, then what's the minus 3 do? That's a down 3. Okay, so some of you were asking how I do this, and I do this the dumbest way possible. I draw a regular sign to start with, right? So regular sign looks like this, more or less. How high are these? 1 and negative 1. This is at 0, yeah? Where's this and this happen? I'm just going to peg a couple of things to your chart. Okay, so pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Okay. Then what?
You shift it back 4 and down 3.
Okay, so then I need to go left by 4 units. So I draw a new picture, right? And this needs to go left 4 units. Okay, so I go 1, 2, 3, 4 units, dot. All right, now comes the confusing part. Where did this one go?
That goes a little bit before the origin.
Good. Why?
Because pi is just over 3.
Yeah, pi is a little more than 3, right? So it's a little more than 3 out from this thing. So 1, 2, 3, and then a little bit. So that's that crossing, right? Just going to help me keep track of where the crossings are. So I should have some kind of sine wave like this. This is at minus 4, and this is minus 1, and we're just a little bit over that. You guys good with this? How high is this thing? Good, this is still 1 high, right? Okay, so this was my left by 4 that I just did. Now what? Yeah, I need a vertical stretch by 2. How do I accomplish that?
Move the 1 to the 2.
Yeah. Be sly, right? And change these to 2 and minus 2. Right? Alternatively, you could redraw this thing taller, right? Okay, so that was my vertical stretch. Now I need to go, what? Down by 3. All right, so redraw. Where did our marked point here go?
Negative 4, negative 3.
Good, that should be at -4, -3. Boom, dot. So that's where the origin went, right? And now, Trevor and I were struggling a little bit about drawing these. So I think one of the things that helps is to notice, where'd the midline go?
-3.
Yeah, the midline was at 0. I shifted it down 3 units. So, okay. So here's my midline. Now, how high does this thing, or how far does this oscillate off the midline?
2 units.
2, right? Okay, so that means it goes from -3 up to
-1.
-1 and down to -5. Okay, so this is the midline plus the amplitude and midline minus the amplitude. You guys all with me on that? Why am I doing this? Yeah, just to keep my picture straight, basically. Okay, so I got my dot on the midline at -4, -3, and then what? Where's another dot I know about? How about this one? It was at a little more than -1, and now it's going to be down 3, right? So it's also on the midline. Where's the point halfway in between? What was that? That was the top or bottom of a P? Top of a P. So that's going to hit this. Oops. So halfway in between, I hit the top, right? I go to midline plus the amplitude. And over here, we're going to go to midline minus the amplitude. And then we can draw our picture in here. So that thing is what?
2 sine x equals 4 minus 3.
Good. That thing's G. And in the process of doing this, I actually figured out all the other stuff. So what was the answer to amplitude, midline, and period? Amplitude of G? Good. Is 2. The midline is -3.
And the period is 2 pi.
And the period's 2 pi. Okay, so where could you have read these off the picture?
Midline
The midline's -3, right? Where'd that come from? Yeah, that was the vertical shift. You guys all see that? That's always where the midline's going to be, right? It's always going to be a component of the vertical shift. How about that amplitude? Where did I read that off?
2 sine rule.
Yeah, that's going to be off this stretch. And where's the 2 pi in there?
After this is from sine.
That didn't change. Why?
Because there was no horizontal.
Good, there wasn't a horizontal compression. You guys all with me on that? Okay, cool. Check. Questions? Complaints?